Let's get it, man. This is Dirty Solo. Shut 'em down radio. Shut 'em down radio.
Decided to write books after that. I put out two books, actually, two motivational books. Took a little break and came back and decided to start doing the podcast, and this has been very interesting this last year. It's been working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, indeed, man. What kind of obstacles are you facing right now? Because, every industry has their own, but what kind of obstacles are you facing? I would think that it might even be a plus. Well, you got a negative, you got a plus. You got a negative because people ain't spending money as what they used to be, but the plus is most people are at home. So now you have an audience that you can actually reach more out to. So tell me what obstacles you facing.
Some of the obstacles I've been facing is, at the beginning, it was kind of hard because you're dealing with getting a lot of no's. You're reaching out to interview these bigger celebrities on bigger totem poles and you're getting a lot of no's. But the positive, like you said, we're all at home, so a lot of these celebrities are bored. And when they're bored, they're not able to go on tour. They're not able to go on, these little promo runs. So their promo runs is the smaller scale platforms like us. So now we're all on the same playing field. So, I used the example the other day doing an interview. You have Fat Joe. He does a show on Instagram Live. It's this Joker show.
Yeah, I've seen
That's
it.
That's literally the same thing we're doing.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, I've actually watched that a few times, and you're exactly right, man. So what's going to be interesting is that after the COVID kind of settles down and starts to pan out, how people react to that. Will they still be doing these shows? Like for you, you're rooted. You're going to be doing this for a long time. But some of the people that have transitioned to do the shows may not actually continue doing them. Who knows? But, man, so give us some of the people that you've actually interviewed and stuff like that. I know I did check out a couple. I know one of them was with Yo-Yo and and people like that on the East Coast. So give us a few names of some of your past interviews.
Well, this season I did, of course, Yo-Yo. I did play some Kid and Play this season. I have done Cassidy, hip-hop star Cassidy.
Oh, nice.
I did E-Ness from Making the Band. He's a battle rapper also. I've interviewed T.K. Kirkland, comedian. I've interviewed the group The Fanatics. They're out of the West Coast. Just to name a few. Just to name a few.
Yeah, which one was stood out to be the most interesting interview?
Play. From Kid and Play. Actually, he actually dropped a lot of knowledge and a lot of game. And, Play and Kid, they are still a group. They're still best of friends, but they took two different directions. Kid is promoting the weed and, the things like, the medicinal marijuana. And Play took the gospel route, and, he's doing podcasts of his own. He's doing – so that was very interesting to see how he perceived his career now, which he said a lot of it he loved coming up, but for the most part he did it for the women and the fame. Now he's in a whole different direction, and it was very interesting to see his transformation. Yeah,
indeed. I actually heard him speak live probably 8 years ago, and he was super motivational, man. He's a really nice guy, and you're right, man. He actually took a different route, and I think, and I actually am pretty confident that he's into the entertainment side of it. So like the film production side of it, and producing. I think he produces plays as well, but he's using his platform, which again, that's what he should be doing. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, that's pretty dope. Man, so what I've heard too is that not only are you this great interviewer / radio host, YouTube sensation, you're also an author. We got 2 books from you, Conquer the World, Don't Wait for Anyone to Conquer It For You, and then also Let's Conquer Mental Health. So the first thing I noticed when I read those is both of them have the word conquer in there. So obviously that must be a significant term for you. So let's talk about that before we talk about the rest of the books and the content surrounding those.
Okay, well, the first one, when I came up with the idea of this conquer, I realized life is a journey. And, with life being a journey, we face challenges every day that we need to conquer. Some people conquer Some people face challenges such as mental health. Some people face challenges such as depression and different things like that. So when me writing these books, I said I need to give them a strong title, something that can help them build on the future. And I found the word conquer in a dictionary, and I go, you know what? Let's conquer these things. Let's conquer together. So that's how the word conquer came about.
Yep, I could see that, and I saw that, and it did stand out. So I appreciate that. So what made you? What pushed you into the direction of writing the books? Like, what was the inspiration behind that? I understand the titles, but for you personally, what made you turn that table and say, look, I'm going to write these books now?
Like I said previously, I was a former artist myself, and I did the shows I wanted to do. I, did the tours I wanted to do, did a lot of these different things, and it never necessarily panned out for me. So I had to figure out another way to speak to people. And from when I can remember, I've always been into English, into literature. So even as a kid, writing books in school and writing little, novels in school that never panned out to anything. But I'm like, you know what? I have a voice, and people like to read. And I'm big fans of books like The 48 Laws of Power, The Art of War, The Color Purple. These type of actual books, like somehow, some way inspired me to do things. So I say, you know what, let's go on and try writing books out, and it actually works.
Nice. Yeah, so I get it now. You're still, it's still a form of the arts, from being a former artist to now like a liberal artist. This is still within that spectrum. So what? Give me some of the people that might have been motivating for you growing up, like family, friends, maybe some sort of mentor that used to come around or used to be in a youth crew. What was your motivation growing up?
It started off with, I would say, sports. My coaches, they motivated me. Okay. I was a kid who had both parents in the house. So I'm not going to give you that whole, I never had my father. I had both parents in the house.
Okay.
And I watched my dad. I tell people all the time, and it's on the record, I've even put in my book, in my Conquer the World book, which my Conquer the World book was a motivational book about my life. So even with that, I tell people my dad was the best and worst person in my life. And I tell you that in the sense of he motivated me because I seen all the good things he did. My dad was literally, in all sense of, no pun intended, and I use it as a joke. My dad was Frank Lucas. In the daytime, he was at home with the family, Christmas time, buying all the kids gifts in the neighborhood, but he had another life that he never brought home. So I eventually got to peek into the other side of life, and I go, I would never want to be like that. But it was a motivation. It was so much of a motivation, so I used him. My mother, at the same time when my dad and mother were going through their issues in life, I watched my mother work 3 jobs. Literally 3 jobs, and still make it to me and my brother's football and basketball games. So, I use her as motivation. In the entertainment industry, I was a big fan of Russell Simmons. I still am. Russell Simmons is still one of my inspirations because of him building Def Jam from the ground up.
Yep, indeed. So what's your plan moving forward? Do you plan on writing more books?
Yes,
are you doing anything with the?
I'm actually working on a entertainment book. Coming up in this game, I met a lot of celebrities. Going to college, I met a lot of up and coming celebrities, and all these different things. So what I've always been taught was, hey, you just got to put that work in. I've always heard our elder statesmen in this industry say, you got to put this work in. But what we never heard is how to put the work in. So I'm literally going to write a book, almost like an entertainment book for dummies, not necessarily for dummies, but for kids who, hey, I don't know how to go get my name copywritten. I don't know how to go get a BMI or an ASCAP. So I want to write that step by step. And yeah, it's giving secrets to the game, but I never got help, but I want to help the next person.
Yeah. So what challenges have you faced when you had to release the first 2 books? I mean, it could be as simple as something went wrong with the design. I mean, I don't know, but what did you face?
It was really literally finding people to believe. When you do motivational books, people look at it like, oh, you're fake. You're just doing it to sell books. No, I really had to buy. I literally had to sell my product and make people believe that this was really motivational. Like I said, the book is about my life, but I showed ways of how I got out of certain things and how I was, as a kid, we were put in certain situations. And like I said, I had to really make people believe and buy into the fact that I was really, truly, genuinely writing a sincere book that people can follow, follow things that I did and were able to succeed in their lives.
Yeah, I got you. I understand that. So what is all right? So you basically you sold yourself. You sold the book. Let people know that this is real. How else have you been marketing yourself and presenting these books into the industry? Like, what different things could you share with us?
Everybody that I've interviewed, I've sent them a book.
Okay.
I've also had a lot of people endorse my books, so it was easy. Like I said, it was easy. That's one of the things about me being in the industry. Yeah, I may not have been famous. I ended up being famous as an artist, but I developed a lot of those relationships, and a lot of them was built off of sincerity and being genuine. And they were just like, "Hey, whatever you got, I'll promote the product." So it's easy. It was easy for me to have someone such as a Little Romeo promote the book, or Tyra Banks promote the book, because these are people that I developed relationships with in my journey.
Nice. And what kind of feedback have you been getting about the book in general?
My first book was a lot of turmoil within my family because it was a motivational book about my life, so I had to write things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with writing.
Yep. Wow. And so what did your family feel about that? I mean, like, did they eventually just say, "Hey, we're just going to support you. This is your truth"? How did that flow?
My mother read the book and was just like, "I don't know what to say," because, like I said, I in order for me to write this first book, even though it was a motivational book, it was my therapy. It was therapy for me at the same time writing. So now it's love. They're like, "Hey, when is the next book?" And, some of the things like they had to get over and understand, it was the best part of therapy was I need to release my story.
Yeah, that's deep. Yeah, that's interesting. I figured that might be how it would have flowed, especially if there were some things in it that they just weren't comfortable with either. First of all, you weren't comfortable writing it, although you did. And then for them to actually go back and read it, were they aware of everything that you had written? Like, were these things that you just kept to yourself and maybe didn't share, or were they a part of some of those experiences? And did they recognize them? When they were reading it back, were they like, "Oh, I remember that"?
A few of them moments I wrote in the book, moments in time, they remember and recognize. But a few of the deep dark things, like how I felt about my parents divorcing, how I felt about some of my cousins, how like one of my favorite subjects in the book is called generational wealth. We weren't taught generational wealth, and I say that in the sense of, I say that in the sense of, I look at my father and my uncles. They did a lot of things that weren't necessarily great back in life, and I'm almost pretty sure they had millions of dollars come in. Now, with them having millions of dollars come in, the nieces and nephews and grandchildren never seen that money because they wasn't taught to save and put into the generational wealth. So I talk about that in my family, like, yeah, my dad did a lot of dumb things in life to get a lot of money, but he never saved it. And, you know what I mean? So a lot of things they weren't aware, and I was just speaking from my perspective on how I felt. Even like I said, with my parents being divorced, I never talked to them. I'm the oldest out of 6. I never explained to them how I felt about them being divorced, but they had to read about it in the book. I mean, my father's passed away now, but, my mother was able to read about it and get where I was coming from.
Yep. How long did it take you to write those?
The first book, a week and a half, just me focusing, writing in a week and a half. And the second book, it took me 2 days because I was so in the zone with writing the second book.
Now, do you have any regrets? Like, and that could be in 2 different ways. Regrets because maybe you wrote something that you realized later maybe you shouldn't have written, or are there things that you left out that now you realize you wish you had to put in there?
I don't have regrets. I actually, no, you know what? I do have regrets. I could have put more because I was still trying to be sensitive to certain people's needs. But like I said, so it was certain subjects that I couldn't put in there that I'm like, you know what, that's going to make this family even worse than what it is. So I do have regrets for not putting certain things. But as far as writing the book, no. Like, I really love it. Like, I loved it. And now that, me and my family all on one accord, some of these stories I actually look back on and go laugh. Damn, and I remember when we were like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like that's something that more families need, because I'm like you. a sense where there's things that were just untold. You just didn't know. And as a kid growing up, you get curious about history, family history. You know what I mean? Like what this family member did, or how your grandmother moved to this state or this part of the country, and all that, and where all these values came from. Because most of it was passed down. And but there's no story. So we get older and then we look back and we try to share what we can with our kids. It's word of mouth. There's no literary documented storyline to help keep the stories real, keep the stories alive. So I think what you did is what more people probably should do. So I think it would be, bring forth a lot of healing in a lot of ways. So you are you married?
No, not at all.
No? Okay. How many kids you got?
One.
Just one? Girl or boy?
Boy.
So what's your vision for your son, as he grows up? How would you be considering your experience with the music industry and being an author? What would
my
you
vision
project?
for him not to do anything that I did. Literally, I don't want him a part of this industry at all. But if that's what he chooses, that's perfectly fine. But originally, my vision is for him not to stay farthest away from this industry as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I hear that. So, man, you got any advice for any authors that are listening, or maybe coming after you in a sense of they're following your footsteps and they're taking a chance, putting it out there? So what kind of advice or motivation would you give them?
Write your truth. Even if it's a fictional book and you're telling a story that you may have created in your mind, write your truth. Literally, you can never be judged. I mean, people can always have something to say, but you can never feel judged or feel disrespected if you're writing the truth. Like I say, even if you're writing a story about witches and vampires, as long as it's your truth and the way you feel, and paint a picture that someone in this world can vision. Like I tell people all the time, if I only can change one person's life, I've done my job.
Got you. Definitely. So what are your plans in regards to, you sound like a motivational speaker. So I know you wrote a book that was motivational. Do you have any plans to do any public speaking? Would you be interested in doing things like that?
I've done a few at the local high schools.
Okay.
I've done a few at a few junior colleges. So with this next book, talking about hip hop, I want to package all together, all three of my books, and I have two out already. You can go on Barnes & Noble website, and it's on the Barnes & Noble website. But I want to package this one, eventually when all this COVID stuff is done, go on tour speaking, speaking to high school, speaking to elementary kids, speaking to prisons. I want to go to speak to prisons because, a lot of people locked down can use the same type of motivation.
Yeah, you're right.
In the process, I'm still, and,
so what,
and within all that, I got a niche to work on the album, so I'm working on that too.
Yeah, nice. Are you doing, you going to take your book to audio also?
I was just approached with that about a couple of weeks ago, so I think we're going to go in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's a smart thing, especially considering, how social media is these days and how everything is flowing. I think that's a good move, man. You should definitely do that. So before we get out of here, because I appreciate your time, man, can you give a few shout-outs to anybody you want to thank that helped you along this journey, helped you with the book and whatnot? You can do that right now.
I want to shout out to Dorrance Publishing. They have locked me in with a lot of deals that I never thought I can get. I also want to shout out my parents. They actually put me in a position to write these tremendous stories. Want to shout out to my team, designer apparel team, Corner 10 Productions. They've been helping me along with this podcast. I want to shout out to my publicist, MJ. She's been amazing since we started working. And I'm actually working with this up-and-coming clothing line called Inspired Designs. Make sure you guys go follow them on Instagram. And that's about it.
All right, I appreciate that, man. Why don't you give us a quick outro for Shut 'Em Down Radio, and then we'll close out the show.
Man, it's your boy Slic Young, the host of the B-Side Interviews. I want to give a big shout-out to Shut 'Em Down Radio. This has been an amazing interview. If you're listening here, if you've been sleeping under a rock, it's no time to sleep under a rock because these guys is where it needs to be. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, I appreciate that. Once again, for everybody listening out there, this is Slic and Salo over at Shut 'em Down Radio and SoundCloud Music Reviews. We have the Mr. Official Slic Young on the line, and we appreciate the interview. You're welcome to come back anytime you want to, and we'll keep up with you and then get an update when your next book drops. All right? I appreciate it, man.
All right, man.
All right, peace.